A very good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the SICW 2021 Women in Cyber. My name is Juliana Yao, and I am privileged to be your MC for today. Thank you for finding time amidst your busy schedules to attend this event. In its third edition, the Women in Cyber event reaffirms the need for diversity in the cybersecurity internationally and across public and private sectors, as well as signals the availability of opportunities within the sector for both men and women. We are pleased to have with us key female leaders and cybersecurity practitioners from around the world to join us for this event, which will feature a 1 hour panel discussion featuring prominent leaders in the field, followed by 2 fireside chats featuring cybersecurity experts and policymakers, which will be moderated by our youth. To begin the conference, it gives me great pleasure to invite Minister for Communications and Information, Second Minister for Home Affairs, Minister in charge of Smart Nation and Cybersecurity, Mrs. Josephine Teo, to deliver the opening address. Minister Josephine Teo, please.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our Women in Cyber event. As an advocate for gender diversity across all fields, I am thrilled to be part of this event. I would also like to thank our international partners, the High Commission of Canada and the Embassy of the Kingdom of the Netherlands, for their sustained support in co-organizing this event. Your partnership speaks volumes about the global commitment towards promoting greater representation of women in fields such as cybersecurity. 2021 is a special year for us to hold this event. Singapore has dedicated this year as the year of celebrating SG women in honor of our mothers, our sisters, daughters, friends, and colleagues who have shaped our homes, schools, workplaces, and communities. Amidst the challenges of COVID-19, it is surely a recognition of the resilience and strength of women in our society. This is the third edition of the Women in Cyber event, and I'm glad to see that the event has grown from strength to strength. During the inaugural event in 2019, the discussions touched on the greater participation of women in cybersecurity. Today, we have expanded the conversation to discuss how we can nurture leadership skills and also the deep technical skill sets of women cybersecurity professionals. Let me elaborate on both issues. First, leadership. Across all domains, leaders have to make difficult, critical decisions on behalf of their organizations. In cybersecurity, leaders manage a trilemma between security, cost, and usability. I recall hearing once that the most secure computer is the one that is unopened and in a box. Alas, that would not be a very usable computer. At the other end of the spectrum, you could spend millions of dollars fortifying your IT system, but that would not be affordable for the majority of persons and organizations. We recognize that security is not absolute. Rather, it is a careful risk assessment that takes into account the trade-offs to be made across the entire business spectrum. Leaders must find the appropriate balance point within the cyber trilemma to ensure their company remains competitive and efficient while managing growing security risks. The objective is not just to be as secure as possible, but to seize the opportunities that digitalization and new technologies offer, and to do it securely. I am pleased to announce here that CSA will be rolling out the Strategic Leadership Program later this year. With this program, we hope to expand the worldview and perspectives of existing and aspiring leaders, both men and women, through curated training and international exposure. We aim to grow a collaborative professional community of leaders through peer networking opportunities. We need to ensure that our cyber leaders are confident and competent in guiding our enterprises and people towards a more digital way of life. Later, you will hear from prominent speakers during our SICW Women X Leaders panel. In the panel, we have my parliamentary colleague, Ms. Rahayu Mazam, who co-chairs the Singapore Together Alliance for Action on Online Harms, especially those targeted at women and girls. Joining her, we have both local and international speakers from the private and public sectors. Our speakers may have diverse backgrounds and focus areas, but have all contributed much to the safety of our cyberspace. I hope some of you will be inspired during the event to follow in their footsteps. In terms of the absolute numbers, we still have much work to do. Out of the 2.8 million cybersecurity professionals in 2019, it was estimated that only 24% were women. But these numbers look more encouraging when we consider the proportion of women cyber professionals that progress and hold top management roles. Globally, 28% of women in cybersecurity rise to take on executive-level positions, as compared to 19% of men. Research has shown that companies with greater women representation in their leadership teams benefit from greater innovation. A diverse leadership team also encourages acceptance and openness of divergent perspectives, which are vital when it comes to making decisions on cybersecurity trade-offs. Besides growing women to take on leadership positions in cybersecurity, we want more women to see the possibilities within the field. Operations technologies, or OT for short, are systems and processes that control physical entities and devices, such as buildings, lighting systems, and transport systems. However, as OT systems were typically not designed to be connected to the internet, they can be exposed to significant risks as they come online if they are not adequately secured. We must ensure that we have the talent and expertise to secure such systems. I'm therefore pleased to make my second announcement today to launch the OT Cybersecurity Competency Framework, jointly developed by CSA and Mercer, supported by SkillsFuture Singapore. The framework outlines and charts the different cybersecurity skill sets that OT professionals should be equipped in across different sectors, such as energy, water, manufacturing, transport, and more. This allows OT and cybersecurity experts to identify gaps within their technical skills or domain knowledge. We hope that this will facilitate cross and upskilling of our workforce to better secure our critical engineering systems while reaping the benefits of digitalization. Alina Tan is a great example of a highly skilled cross-domain talent that we hope to develop more of through this program. Having been intrigued by car racing from her younger days, Alina leveraged on this interest to specialize in automotive security. In her previous role in government, she was part of the team that looked into Singapore's adoption of self-driving cars. She tested the security of the networks underlying these cars, tirelessly seeking out loopholes that attackers might leverage on. Talents like Alina ensure we have a smooth road ahead of us as we progress towards a more digital way of life. Increasing more women representation in the cybersecurity field is a big plus. On a national level, women's participation help us to achieve the strongest fortification. At the enterprise level, we need more women to fill in the talent gap especially with a global workforce shortage of more than 3 million within the field. At the individual level, we want women to be empowered to develop and fulfill their potential in high-growth sectors, such as cybersecurity. Regardless of your age, you can be future leaders in cybersecurity or in whatever field you choose. Continue to upskill yourself and build deep domain expertise. Make the most of the many opportunities in the digital age. I wish you all a most fruitful and inspiring discussion ahead. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister Teo. Ladies and gentlemen, next we have our first panel discussion for the day. Please join me in welcoming our moderator, Professor Annie Koh, Professor Emeritus of Finance at the Singapore Management University. And joining her, we have our speakers, Ms. Rahayu Mazam, Parliamentary Secretary at the Ministry of Communications and Information and the Ministry of Health, Ms. Jenny Tan, Vice President of SICW Singapore Chapter, Ms. Camelia Chan, Chief Executive Officer at Flexon, Ms. Erica Lewis, Director for Cybersecurity and Digital Identity at the Department for Digital Culture, Media and Sports in the UK, and last but not least, Ms. Shelley Bruce, Chief at the Communication Security Establishment in Canada. So over to you, Professor Koh.
Thank you very much, Juliana. A very warm good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to our virtual audience. I am delighted to be the moderator for this year's Women in Cyber, and I've done this 2 years in a row. And I get very much, excited because this year we are actually having a diverse range of political, and business leaders. And we reached this conclusion that whoever's in this audience with us, you're going to walk away delighted, because what we are going to do is we are going to share from personal as well as corporate experiences on what is it like to build the next generation of cyber leaders. And I was just mentioning to my esteemed panel that I've seen many men in cybersecurity, but very few women voices. And tonight, being able to gather 5 wonderful voices, that's really something special. So I thought I'll start with Singapore being host with PALSEC, Rahayu. And PALSEC, I think your mission was so clear when I read your CV. You wanted everything to be very inclusive. Many of your programs that you do with youth, with women in SG, Singapore, it's very much from an inclusive angle. So I thought maybe the best way to talk about cybersecurity is to reflect on the word culture. How do we get everyone on board and to feel safe and resilient in the use of internet, in the use of technology? How do we create that cyber responsible culture? Perhaps you could take us through that conversation.
So much, Dr. Koh. Hello, everybody. Good evening. It is a great pleasure to be here to join this esteemed panel in this discussion. We were told earlier by our dear moderator that this is a conversation, so it's going to be laid back, comfortable, and a sharing of really personal views and thoughts so that we can grow together. So let me share some perspectives. I think it's a very important question that you said about culture, right? Because it is about that ecosystem that we create so that we can all thrive and develop this and encourage women to go into this space. The way I see it is in tiers. I think there are basic things that we need to have in place, and then there are things that we need to work on to really develop and enhance participation, especially as we are actually working towards creating women leaders in this sector. So I think at the very basic level, we spoke about cyber space safety, right? And that's something that I think should be an essential, basic requirement that we put in place. So I co-chair the Alliance for Action in relation to online harms, in particular against women and girls. I co-chair it with SMSMN, and it has been a delightful opportunity to really see different people coming together, thinking about this very important issue. So as we talk about this, we often discuss this as in comparison to the physical world. In Singapore especially, it's a fairly safe space. You can walk around at night, not worrying about your safety. I used to work very late. I was a lawyer in practice, and I used to take a cab home like after midnight all the time. And I can fall asleep in the cab and be sure that I'll be brought home and not have to worry about it. So that's the level of safety we have here in Singapore most of the time. But that's not the same thing we can say about the digital space. It's getting very, very prevalent and very pervasive to see a lot of incidents of revenge porn, of intimate photos being shared without permission. And all these is causing a lot of stress and harm to our girls, so our women as well. And so these are things that we need to really work on. So the online space provides a lot of opportunities for us to connect, but there are also such negativities that we need to work on. From January to September in 2020 alone, for example, the police reported about 500 cases of voyeurism and distribution of images, intimate images, and that's something that is unwanted. And so at that basic level, we need to fix that. So that's, we're working together with a team of volunteers with this Action for Alliance we call the Sunlight AFA, because as SMS Simon puts it, to shine light into the darker corners of the online world, to really give that safety. And we take this whole of nation approach. We have about 48 members from the public, private, people sector to come together to discuss, to make the cyberspace a better space. So that's the basic level, I feel, of safety. And to enhance that safety, really, we need to inculcate good practices amongst our young people, because they are digital natives. They're going in this space, they're in this new era, and they're using this often, they're communicating. It means that they're also more exposed to some of the dangers. And we need to equip them early. So at the Ministry of Education, they have the Character and Citizenship Education Curriculum, which puts in information to students about internet safety and all that. So CSA has collaborated with MOE, Ministry of Education, with our police, SPF, and IMDA to develop a SG Cyber Safe Students Program, which is an educational resource package to teach them about these basic things. And these are things that, again, to make them comfortable so that they are prepared, equipped to go into this space. So boys and girls included, but for girls, this is a good skill to navigate in this space. So once we have that basic level, then we need to make them explore the opportunities. And so that's also another, I think, an important aspect that we need to really develop and work on. So this is a growing sector, but it's also new and people need to learn to navigate it. So we want to kind of nudge and push people further, especially as young as possible, so that we can see a whole generation going into this space being very comfortable with it. So CSA has developed the SG Cyber Youth Initiative. It's a national initiative designed to guide our youth in this cybersecurity journey. And one of the key programs is this Youth Cyber Education Program. And it's like a boot camp designed to get the pre-tertiary students excited about their journey through a cybersecurity career. In conversations, we always see women and girls underrepresented in some of these things. So these programs are meant to kind of really break that stereotype, and have girls not view it as a boys' domain, have them comfortable and join and get them participating, knowing some of the opportunities that's out there. So these are very good opportunities. So lastly, we get people exposed, we get people interested. We then need to help that journey along, because for women, you want to develop leaders, right? We want to have them actually have more representation, as Dr. Nico puts it. We were in a few sessions already watching, and we do see a lot of men in the sessions, we need a lot more women. So I'm very excited today. So we need to make sure that that journey is not lonely, and that there is an ecosystem. And you know how girls are, how women are. When we come together, we can rock the world, And so I think that's something we need to continue to build. We have a good percentage based on the study by BCG. Women in Singapore make up about 41% of the tech workforce. This is one of the highest in the region, well above the global average of 28%. So to better support this journey, CSA has developed the SG Cyber Women X series. So it's a series of virtual events in partnership with community and industry partners to engage women through education, develop their cybersecurity skills. And there was a series which I think has just been concluded, but I understand there'll be more events lined up. We also have the SG Women in Tech initiative driven by IMD, supported by the community and industry partners. So that's my long story to this whole effort. I think it's a tiered effort, but we need to continue building the blocks so that that journey for that girl, that woman is developed and strengthened.
Wonderful. Thank you. You know, Palsec, I never see you so excited. So I can tell straight away. And now I know why you carry the MCI and the MOH hat. Because in many ways, being cyber secure also means safety. And so the mental health is also part of that journey. So thank you very much. And I know we will be having questions for you in a little while. I'm going to move to our Western counterparts. I'm going to you, Shelley. Shelley Bruce is the Chief of Communication Security Establishment in Canada. So it's really on the other side. But I love it, Shelley, that you actually graduated with an arts degree and a master's in Slavic languages. So for many of those in the audience right now, and you think that every cybersecurity person need to do comm science, sorry, this is one person that is telling you otherwise. So maybe, Shelley, you could kind of point us, how do you build that safety, that soundness in the cybersecurity awareness within your own country?
Sure. Thank you so much for the invitation to be here today. I've had the opportunity and the just being so lucky to have great female role models in my entire career. And so it's really a delight to be on a panel with more female role models in the industry. So thank you again for the invitation. You know, cyber attacks are growing. Certainly 2021 has been a banner year for activity, especially ransomware. So there's a lot of impetus for us to continue to raise the bar. You know, all of us in the cybersecurity space have been working for decades to try and raise awareness, and perhaps some of these more publicized events lately have really helped galvanize the public to understand that there are real world impacts to the cyber events that are coming our way, whether that's, you know, worried about getting gas at the gas station or seeing the millions of dollars that get paid out in ransom for some of the activities. It's really a sobering set of circumstances. And cyber readiness is absolutely critical in all of this. No system is immune. I think making sure people understand that taking action now is going to help them in the long run. It's not always an easy message to sell, but I think the key message is you can take action now, or you may have to take action later. So it's better to be prepared in a way that helps you reduce the risk and limit the impact. And when things do go wrong, and it's likely that at some point something will go wrong, it's improving your ability to recover and the overall resilience of your organization, but also your nation. Mm-hmm. So in Canada, we see cybersecurity as a whole of society issue. Another theme of this session is partnership, and I think that's also very, very important here. It requires a whole of society response. We've got businesses and governments of all jurisdictions, academia, individual technology companies, but also Canadians themselves. And of course, outside of the domestic realm, we're working very closely with our international partners, including the CSA. So it really is what we refer to as security through collaboration. There is really no other way. At CSE, perhaps we think of it as a bit of a team sport. So we try to build up the playbook, and maybe as a sporting, if you think of a sporting team and coaching through a sporting team, it's really about understanding the tactics of the opposition, having that playbook of your own best practices, making sure that your team has the right advice and guidance, cheering loudly to help people get through the rough times. And I think we've been really useful in Canada in addressing or applying our specific skills and expertise and capabilities and authorities, especially to the Government of Canada space. So we protect them on a daily basis, and we take what we learn there and we try and apply it and transfer that knowledge, because we are CSE is also the Foreign Intelligence Agency for Signals Intelligence and Canada's National Cyber Security Authority, as well as the Authority for Information Assurance. So we have a lot of unique perspective and insight that we get from our world that we can safely package up and decant into the broader population. So, for example, our tradecraft and some of our malware detection tools, we've been able to put those out into the open source environment and make them available to the broader Canadian population, but also globally. That's important for organizations who may not be able to afford some of the higher cost options that are out there from the commercial sector. We also work very closely with the health sector throughout this pandemic. Nothing could have been more critical. And so sitting with them and making sure they have the indicators of compromise and are well positioned to withstand the onslaught of activity against them. And it's really interesting and sad to see how many cyber actors are taking advantage of those kinds of organizations when it comes to ransomware attacks. It's I guess, one of the big things in addition to the technology and the teamwork is really to focus on Canadians. So the awareness and raising, this is Cybersecurity Awareness Month in Canada. So our campaign is front of mind, but we have 38 million people in Canada. And so we're really trying very hard to make a frontline defender of all of them. And that will help raise our bar nationally, and I think also give them more comfort individually that they're doing what they can to protect their own information and not be a vector for exploitation. For example, we've taken some of the insights that we have, and we're working with a Canadian company to add more of our indicators of compromise and intelligence-driven insights into an app that all Canadians can download freely and get a little bit of extra protection to make sure that if they click on something that happens to be a known malware site, that it's blocked on their behalf. So really looking at ways we can raise the bar nationally. It's important to go individually and raise education and awareness on a person-by-person basis. But if there's things we can do to increase our resilience at the national level, that's also an important approach. So I would say that the work is never finished, and we will continue to be diligent and keep coming up with new ideas. And these kinds of fora allow us to share those kinds of ideas and learn from each other. So
very good.
I'll stop there.
Yes, and I think we have a lot to learn from you too, Shelley, because we are very curious. How do you get 38 million people to take ownership of their own cybersecurity and awareness? So we'll come to you in a little while. And I know you talk a lot about collaboration, which is one of my last C's. But you also mentioned that you work very closely with the business sector, develop an app so that it can be used across the nation. So coming to business, I cannot think of a better individual to help us look at competencies than Cam Chan. Yeah. So Cam, I'm going to come to you. But before I do, I thought it really requires me to get to know you a little bit. Can you kind of tell us how old is Flexon and what exactly does it produce that can be of use to help us fight cybersecurity?
Thank you, Professor Cole. We are actually a 14 years company. To be exact, should be 13 years company. So we are the manufacturer of data storage with cybersecurity solution.
Okay. And I've read your CV, and although you come from a business admin background, you are actually the founder of Flexon. So how in the world do you acquire those skills and get so involved in R&D?
Yeah, I always believe in diverse talent, and I get all the talents globally, and I import the global talents to Singapore, and I groom the local talents as well. So diverse talent, which to me is equivalent to a broad range of skill, experience, and ideas. So especially as a tech company, diverse talent can bring different perspective or new perspective and innovation that can contribute greatly to building our company competency and growth.
Very nice.
So We are just a local SME with 70 staff, but we have more than 15 nationalities.
Well done. So I love it from a diversity and inclusion index. You score very high, but I'm going to tell the audience that you will score even higher. Your C-suite, how many women are there?
Okay, for C-suite, 100% is a female.
So I'm going to repeat, all right? Cam just said 100% C-suite. And what exactly comprises the C-suite, Cam?
For myself, the CEO, and my CEO, and the CTO.
All women?
Yes.
Very nice. So you see, you got clap, thumbs up, everything coming to you. So very nice. So I now want to extend a little bit. So you have all these data solutions, that will help protect data for a lot of your customers. How do you build competencies, not just within your own company, but also build it across the different customers that you come across? So when you sell them a solution, take us through that process a little bit. How do you empower your customers so that they would also be very aware and know how to use the data solutions accordingly?
So as shared earlier, I still believe in diverse talent. And our company, the talented people, they are coming from a very different background, different nationalities or very different domains, which create a very impactful environment at FlexZone. So they always challenge the norms, and we building the competency, innovation, and excellence into our product and services, or even our business model and our operation. And we always want to embrace not just a local community, but also a global community, so that we can level the global economic playing field in our industry. And secondly, cross-community, where through connecting with cross-industry and cross-continental security leaders like Shirley, it's great to know you guys. And we can open up new ideas of protection strategies to fight against a potential cyber pandemic and other threats. So I always believe that a diverse talent pool always inspires us to be innovative from a cybersecurity perspective. So develop an innovative solution to address the current pressing cybersecurity concern, where humans are the weakest link in the cyber defenses. Hence, we actually came out the innovation with AI embedded to eliminate the human intervention and provide a real-time protection to stop these known or unknown threats. And so now our clients, they can actually leave it to our technology to upkeep their cyber resilience. And this is very good to fight against the ransomware that just mentioned by Shirley just now.
Amazing. So how do you prevent people from poaching your wonderful diverse talent? Sorry, I got to get this question across, and Jenny's laughing already, because the market keeps signaling to us that we don't have enough tech skills and tech talent. So how do you retain and develop your own staff?
Okay, in FlexZone, in our company, we encourage the entrepreneurship by providing a work environment where people can contribute their full potential to the company, whether be it new ideas or new patterns or even ways to increase the productivity. Anyone who can come up with a good idea will be rewarded. And this is why I always put out this statement: value creation is king. And it's actually strongly embedded in the minds of everyone in our company. Besides that, this inclusive company cultures that I have built out, actually I advocate meritocracy. So in our hiring processes, we look at how much value each candidate can actually bring into the company. We do not hire based on genders, nationality, or even paper qualification. We strongly believe in putting the right people in the right places as crucial way to maximize the end result. So besides that, I think a right management culture will lead teams to achieve the same goal and objective, even they could have come from a different perspective.
Very nice. So, we were going from culture to competencies, and yet Cam keep emphasizing that the right culture is very important to bring out all those skills and competencies. So it's not just about tech skills. So I'm going to pivot, all right, to Jenny. And I think, Jenny, I'm going to make you wear two hats. You are also, leading a global internal audit practice in CapitaLand. And, wearing that hat first, because so many of my students who graduated from School of Accountancy and they joined internal audit and they felt that, I don't know very much about IT audit. How did you acquire those skills along the way?
Okay, I think, first of all, I must thank the organizer for having me here. How do I acquire the skills along the way? I think for myself, because I'm actually tech trained, yeah. So I'm the other side of the people where they wanted to cover from business to tech. So I converted myself from tech to business, yeah. So having gone through the experience, so to answer your questions, as in, when students graduated from accounting, coming into internal audit, I think what I want them to have is to keep an open mind first and don't just bring their textbooks with them, yeah. Okay, so this is very important because when you come into internal audit, it's really about knowing the business, knowing what's needed for the business. So from a commercial aspect, organizations are going digital. Yeah, so I'm sure everyone knows that the internal auditors are facing a really resource crunch as well as skills crunch because they are very good with accounting knowledge or operational processes knowledge, but they really lack the tech knowledge. So how I address such things would be, first of all, because of my background and training, I straddle in between two. So I can assist the team or augment the team with all these tech-related training. But you can't dump all training on them. They will never absorb anything. So it's really giving foundation and applying some of these individualistic kind of skills that you have to identify because not everybody is built for tech. Yeah, some people may be good in tech risk. Some people may be good in governance, or some people are really good hands-on with the really techy stuff. Yeah. So these are the few things that I have to identify and work with my team. I strongly urge the other internal audit leaders also do that. Identify people of different skill set and interest and put them through foundational courses. And at the same time, now I put on the other side of the hat is that, because I wear the other side of the hat from a non-profit association where I drive a lot of community effort, I know what's going on outside and bring what's going on outside back to inside, to the team. So I strongly encourage my team to join some of these associations, to be exposed and to learn from there. And the collaborative effort here is really, really very beneficial. I love wearing the hat of ISACA because I champion the She Leads Tech platform as well, which now you talk about AFA. So I'm one of those who contributed to it. I'm so proud of it. So I mean, it's about promoting female leadership in championing your own interest in technology space. And why I say I love that is because the collaboration will really give people eye-opener. Because you work with public sector like CSA, PDPC, you work with people of like-mindedness professionals like everyone here, right? And you work with your own organization people. Then you can balance up the ecosystem and you know what's out there, what's needed. And when you look inside, right, then you know what's missing. When you know what's missing, you can complement each other. And that's how I balance up the so-called competencies ecosystem from within and also from the outside. Yeah.
Perfect. So it's amazing because the words I'm catching from here is open. And open means that you've got to be open to other people, learning, sharing with you, and then you bring all that within your organization and everyone benefits. And I think you also reinforce what Pelsac said earlier. This whole journey would be a lot more pleasant if you're traveling with more people. So
Yes.
we are actually traveling with people within and outside the organization. And I'm going to move now to Erika. Erika, you get my last C. You get my collaboration piece. And I'm sure all the other ladies will jump in with other collaboration examples. But I'm going to go to you first because you are the founding member of the London government and you moved from a voluntary sector to the setup team for the London Development Agency in April 2000. And I love it that for many of your projects, it's actually not greenfield, it is transforming existing, developments and try to make it more digital and try to have it more cyber secure. So can you work with us and take us through what exactly do you do in DCMS, your role, and how do you pull every button and every knob to get collaborative? How do you become one nation looking at cybersecurity with the same set of eyes?
So I'm going to start by saying thank you very much for having me as well. It's middle of the afternoon here, and I was. It's so wonderful, I think, and maybe this is like a beginning of talking about why we need to be so collaborative. The world has really changed for everybody in the last 2 years. I mean, that's perhaps I don't need to say that, but I think sometimes it does need to be said. And what I think is really exciting about that is the ability to have this kind of conversation. At breakfast this morning, I said to my 16-year-old, I'm giving a presentation in Singapore this afternoon. And he was just like, well, it's just one of those things. And if I'd said that 2 years ago, it actually would have meant that I was going on a plane. And I think we have really moved very, very fast into these spaces and places where it's a lot easier to collaborate. And you said collaboration is nice, but actually I think collaboration is necessary for us to move into a different place in the way that we are working in cyber and digital. And other panelists have said some really wonderful things. I mean, in DCMS, we have, I suppose, 3 things that we're working on, and then I'll talk a little bit about the collaborations that we're part of. The top thing for us is around innovation, and it's so lovely to be on a panel with innovative women like Cam. So really great to be here with you. And what we're trying to do in the UK is actually seed those successful small cyber businesses. And we see cyber businesses as being part of us making sure that our economy is secure. Because obviously every business now is a digital business. I think there was a time maybe 10 years ago where we would have said there were digital businesses and there were other businesses. Now there are just digital businesses. Everybody uses it. You go to the pub here in the UK and you now order online. If you want to go and see the doctor, you do that online. So every business that was face to face has now got some element of digital business. Really important, and cybersecurity services are really important to that. But also, cybersecurity is a part of our business base. So it's a really growing business sector for us in the UK, and it's part of successful places. So we think that at the moment, every place that is successful should have some kind of element of cybersecurity business in it. Then we're also working on skills. We're in this position in the UK where we've got a 10,000 person skills gap. There are 10,000 jobs waiting for somebody with the right skills to come into that role. Really important if we are to remain a world leader in cybersecurity that we have those kinds of skills in our communities. And really important that everybody, including diverse communities and women, know what the skills are that they need to have to become cyber experts. So we're looking at skilling people up, but we're also looking at tapping into more diverse communities to fill those roles. And I was just amazed by the figures that I heard about participation in the Singaporean digital sector by women. Nowhere near that level in cybersecurity in the UK. We have got about 17% of employees in the UK cyber sector are women, and that goes down to about 3% at senior level. So we really want to be working on that, not just because we need women to come and get those jobs because there are so many of them, but also because we know that different communities and women will bring different ideas. And, you know, I think we probably mentioned it as a panel, but women are renowned for being very collaborative. And so if we're going to collaborate, we've got to be sitting at the top of some of these organisations and working within them. And then the third thing that we're doing is really looking at what are the rules and the guidance and the legislation that needs to be in place. You know, how much can we be relying on businesses to come and ask the questions and then do the right things by themselves? And how much should we be actually saying this needs to be secure by design at a basic level? You know, definitely looking at different types of IoT, the kinds of things that we're using at home. We've mentioned some of them, but also the kinds of IoT that we're putting in places. And then thinking about how much government needs to intervene to make sure that those places that we're coming in contact with IoT are safe. So, those are the kind of three key things that we're doing. But just in terms of collaboration, to just elaborate a little bit more, Jenny mentioned having women moving, or in fact people moving back and forth between sectors. We've also got some of that going on in the UK. We've got something called an Industry 100 programme where individuals from the private sector get to be embedded in our National Cybersecurity Centre, which is the equivalent organisation to the organisation that Shelley works in, I think, in Canada. And that's incredibly successful, not only for the business people who lend those people in and then get them back with significantly different knowledge and training, but also for us in the centre, because we're getting a lot of diverse ideas and a bit of an understanding. I think it can be very easy when you're in government to forget what is really going on in the real world. We spend all of our time trying to understand what's going on in the real world, but having some real world people inside the organisation, I think, is really, really helpful. And then there's a lot of international collaboration that we do. We're also working as part of the UN Women in Cyber Fellowship Programme, and we sponsor that alongside Australia, Canada, Netherlands and New Zealand. And that's a fantastic, innovative way of getting more women involved in UN negotiations concerning cyberspace. You know, I think we again always forget that all of this sits on this incredible network, which we call the internet. And sometimes we don't even remember really what the internet is, but we've got to be thinking about what are the rules in cyberspace? How can we make sure that that underlying environment is safe? We also do some support for Equals, which is a global partnership which is working to reverse the digital gender divide through supporting women and girls in digital access to leadership, and really important for us to be continuing to support young women and opening their minds, as some of the other panelists have already spoken about, really early on in their career, to the fact that actually it's, you know, you don't have to be a techie to work in cyber. This is what you've been saying, Annie, and I think that's absolutely right, and that's a message which we're trying to get across. And then we are, I suppose, inside my team, really trying to work by example, and we are striving to be diverse, working with diverse communities. I don't know about other people in other nations, but we have had concentration of activity in certain places in the UK, and we're trying to make sure that we're kind of moving that activity into other parts of the UK so that we can get much more diversity and make the UK one of the safest places to live and be online.
Okay. Thank you very much. All right, Erica, I could also tell that you're trying to work with everyone on this panel. So I thought I'm encouraging questions to come in. So, you know, we will have some time, about 5 to 10 minutes. But before we get to the questions, I'm going to kind of open it up to this panel, because all of you have such amazing collaborative stories. Is there something that you did in a collaborative form, whether cross-border or within your company or outside of the company, that makes you very proud? And what is it in that program that makes you so happy, so delighted, and also help to build the next generation of cyber leaders? Any one of you? See? Yes, Shelley, I saw your hand. Go.
Thanks. Maybe just very quickly, it is about building that next generation of cyber leaders for us. And CSE is the home as well of the Canadian Centre for Cybersecurity, and they're working with all those partners that I mentioned earlier. But I feel quite proud of the outreach work that we've been doing into some groups. For example, Hacker Gal is an organization in Canada that has thousands of young women and non-binary individuals who are learning skills in cybersecurity and also just basic computer engineering through that group. And our people are there helping them. It's, some people are just natural trailblazers, but others really need these kinds of mentorship opportunities. And I do find that it's as healthy and rewarding for our own people to be out there and for those groups to see faces that look like them helping them and knowing that there's opportunities for them as they grow into some of these roles. We also work not just with girls, but also Black Boys Code and other groups that support Indigenous youth in Canada and other equity-seeking or maybe underrepresented groups, because that kind of diversity is just so important at all of our tables. So it's not just the right thing to do, but it is the right thing to do. And, we want those perspectives at the tables where decisions will be made. So just very briefly, I would say that kind of outreach, starting with children as young as 5 years old, teaching them how to do Scratch animation, it's important investment and it's rewarding, I think, all around.
Thank you, Shelley. I think so too. I could tell, today is Children's Day and, having the kids being, coached, brought up, and the business community coming in to help coach and sponsor. I think those are wonderful stories. Anybody else? I think, Fireside, you do a lot with youths as well. Maybe you want to jump in here.
Well, I had this in mind because it was just very recent. It was just yesterday we did it. But I just wanted to celebrate the different types of collaboration we have. And it can be as very small or it can be at the international level. But the fact that we're all coming together, trying to make this space better, I think is a sign that, we realize the importance of this. So under the Sunlight AFA, we also work together with the hackathon that's co-organized by DBS, MCI, as well as the Singapore Judiciary to actually come up with solutions to the problem statements as to how to protect women and girls in the online space. So it is about bringing this problem outside, and sharing it out and letting people share and come up with solutions. So we had about 40 diverse teams that were practicing lawyers, law students, different teams coming to give some ideas, tech solutions, actually taking into account the social implications. So I thought that was a fairly simple example of how something quite straightforward. You have this problem, share it with everyone, and then let people come together to come up with solutions for it.
Very nice. Crowdsourcing for solutions.
Yes.
Yeah, correct. Cam, I have a dedicated question on Slido for you, but you answer first and then everybody else could chip in. So Camilla, you kept mentioning innovation in Flexon. What is the key idea of your innovation?
So if you look at the current digital world now, everyone is required to keep cyber hygiene, especially for those they are working remotely. But this is always not their priority, right? I mean, everybody, it's not your priority to update your PC OS, right? So, but after staying vigilant continuously, you will definitely feel cyber fatigue. So it's common that everybody will just start to neglect the cyber hygiene. So at the same time, ransomware is becoming very serious issue right now, like Erica had mentioned earlier, and many security leaders even mentioned this concern during the dialogue on the International IoT Security Roundtable at the early part of this event. So all the solutions in the current market require you to constantly be aware and perform actions to keep up with the cyber resilience. However, if you look at the statistic number, 95% of the cyber breach are actually caused by human factors, regardless what form they turn out to be, like phishing email or password attack. That's why humans are the weakest link in the cyber defense. And for Flexon, we came up the innovation that actually embedded the AI machine learning technology to completely eliminate the human intervention. So it doesn't rely on the user, and yet you can be protected by default in real time to stop any nonce or unknown threats. So that's our innovation.
Yeah, and you cannot provide more details, otherwise you're giving away the IP. All right. But I love the word innovation because I think we are constantly having to fight this battle. And although there is this AI solution embedded now, there are many mobile devices other than computers. So people are carrying multiple gadgets. I don't think to what extent, it can be completely taken away. So, how do we get everyone talking about it and learning from each other? Is there any other country example, or Jenny, how do you go about championing this within ISACA?
Okay, I think firstly, maybe under Shirley, as a Shirley's Tech champion, I may invite Cam on my next webinar to talk about this innovation. Yes,
collaboration is here.
Yes, that's the beauty of collaboration. Yeah, so I think it's as an auditor, I love what she wants to do because I totally agree. Because from an audit perspective, we always, the outcome of audit has always shown that more than 50% has always been cyber hygiene issues. Very basic issues that people keep on repeating the same mistakes. And if this can be really, be implemented and scored well in terms of accuracy of things, I will give you double thumbs up. Yeah. But before that, maybe I should come and audit your system first.
He wants to be the team,
Yeah. So I think just to continue from there, as the Shirley's Tech champion, earlier on I mentioned that I like to bring forth about female tech leadership, right, on such matters. And I prefer to focus on the softer tech issues rather than the hardcore tech issues, because there are lots of platforms and lots of channels on hardcore tech already. I think people are just overwhelmed by it. And a lot of softer tech matters have gone undermined. Yeah. So even like addressing innovation, the next thing I would want to ask is about how do we deal with ethics? How do we deal with governance? You have AI, you have all these emerging tech matters. So how do you deal with that? So on my platform, I do have lots of female speakers. My platform has always been featuring female speakers, but my audience can be male and women, because I think we need alliances, right? We need them to understand what's going on. So from a collaborative effort to address this kind of thing, I think we have been doing well. And I just wanted to cite two very short example about border and also working with the public sector. Last year, I had the opportunity to work with PwC to talk about data governance, data protection from a regulatory perspective, and then how culture comes into the picture. So I brought on the Korean side of my female counterpart, as well as the Thai female counterpart. So we had this Singapore, Korea, and Thai kind of sharing to talk about, from a commercial, from a public sector, from a user point of view, and from an academia point of view, how do you treat this topic? And the recent one that I had is also working with Touch Community, as well as MCI. It's relating to AFA. The topic that I purposely pushed forth is digital wellness, because like I said, a lot of things are so happening out there that people have forgotten about what digital wellness is all about, or there's a need for digital wellness. And Touch Community speaker also touched on all these. And my audiences actually gave very good feedback, as in they had never thought that Singapore would face such a problem. I've never known such problem existed in their world as well. So I think what I wanted to bring across from a Shirley's Tech platform is really championing as women in tech to bring forth all these, I would say, supplementary or complementary topics to make this tech space more complete.
Very nice. I'm looking at the clock and I wish we have more questions coming in, but since that's about it, I can round up by asking the reverse order. So I'm going to start with you first, Erica. Yeah. So, where you sit now in UK, and you were saying that there 10,000 jobs, that needs the skilling. What are some of the things that you're doing to try and change this number, make it even smaller? And how are you matching jobs and skills to the women out there who probably would love those, and how to get upgraded? So
I'll be quick because I know we're running out of time. So we have a number of different training programs where we start in schools actually. So we've got a cyber skills schools program, which is really successful in terms of getting young women, girls into having a go at cybersecurity, and that's been really successful. But we're also doing retraining for people who are out of work and thinking about them getting those kinds of skills too. I mean, I just wanted to round up by saying, I think there are a couple of messages here. We really should be seizing all of those opportunities and reaching out to women and encouraging them to come into cybersecurity for all of the reasons that we've mentioned as a whole panel. But it's never too late to think about a career in cyber. So that's the other thing. It doesn't have to have started when you were at school. You can be doing it now. It doesn't, as we've already proven, that you can have your degree in arts and then come into cybersecurity later. And that actually means that you get a good diverse skill set in your cybersecurity workforce. So think about all of those, think beyond stereotypes, think into, reaching out to different sectors, which is what we're doing, and making it clear. I mean, for us, the key is what is cyber skills that you need to be successful in the workplace.
Thank you very much. And I'm going to go to Jenny. So Jenny, wearing the hat of both, sitting in the intersection between tech and accountancy, how would you advise students who are in the School of Accountancy today?
I would say that be curious, yes, and be willing to learn. Because I find that nowadays the young generation, they are just impatient, and they want to come in, being ready, plug and play, because of the competition. Yeah, but then to me I find that students need to really keep an open mind and be curious about things, such that they can truly appreciate what's going on, and then you can ask the right questions. Because being auditor is not about just ticking the checklist. It's really asking the right questions. Even if you don't have IT skills, if you know what's going on, you know what questions to ask, you know what to look out for. So I think that is very important. So for the young ones, be patient, come with an open mind, really willing to learn, and ask the right questions.
Very nice. So you see, we have been teaching our students to answer with the right answers, but now it's about asking the right questions, right? And now I'm going to Cam. Cam, you actually work for many big MNCs. What drives you to start Flexon in 2007? Why be an entrepreneur and have to work so hard developing a product, building a team when you were with big MNCs? See, I get personal once I'm comfortable with it.
I really like innovation, and I really like to run a business. So I decided to start out my own company where I have control over the company cultures, branding, or even the innovation. So especially in the NAND storage manufacturing line, we serve customers in a different industry over the years and receive many customers' feedback on the cybersecurity concern. And we saw the opportunity to place these cybersecurity defenses in the memory storage and make it has a brain in it. So we move ahead to create the proof of concept and continue our journey by doing a lot of research into a different methodology approach to realize the innovation idea. Yeah.
Very nice. So you see, everyone who are out there, you could be a mid-career entrepreneur, so long as you could identify a problem and a niche, and it's driven by a woman in this case. So I'm going to move to you, Shelley. Shelley, having heard from all of us and having seen the journey in Canada, what advice would you give to a small country like Singapore?
Well, specifically in the area of cybersecurity and growing women in the field, I would say to rethink what the field means to us. It's, as many have mentioned already, it's way bigger than pen testers or people with computer science skills. We need, as Jenny has said, auditors, we need lawyers, we need risk people. We need communications officers and educators and data analysts. So there are so many fields there. So just to spread our arms wide open and try and embrace all of the different aspects of the discipline, and there's lots of women out there that we can also, encourage to enter into these kinds of fields within cybersecurity. I guess one of the other things I would say is that when women are participating in discussions, when we're pitching ideas or applying for jobs or speaking up at boardroom meetings, to just remember that we're doing everybody in that room a favor because they need our perspective, and not to be intimidated or feel like we are maybe late entries to the game. It's time, and we should take the space.
Very nice. So lean in is not enough. You should step up.
Yes.
I'll start a new book. So, Palsec, I think having heard so many diverse voices and many of the things that you have on your table, what would be some of the more immediate things that you think after this 1 hour that you have with all these other women voices that you really want to push the envelope and make it happen?
Firstly, could I just take this opportunity to thank the fellows panelists here, because I've learned so much in this short time. At a professional level, it is the experiences that are similar in Canada, in UK, that similar issues we face, and I've gotten a lot of ideas from the things that you shared. And of course, Camilla and Jenny, they're like superstars in the scene, and I'm thinking already how I can bring them into future programs and projects. Jenny's already chopping spaces, so definitely these are things that we'll be looking at. But really, these are really opportunities, and even at a personal level, I'm so encouraged by Erica's call to say it's not too late. It's Shelley, I'm quite excited because I know very little. In fact, coming into this panel, I was a little nervous it will get a little technical, but I'm so encouraged by the inclusive and supportive environment that we're creating for people who are venturing into this. And so I would really think that that's the areas that we should look at, because cybersecurity is really growing in importance and prominence. In Singapore, we've already made digital defense the sixth pillar of defense, which really shows how important we're placing it. And so it's going to be a growth sector. We already spoke about, Erica highlighted this earlier, about how COVID nudged this a lot more, right? I mean, it's just changed the way these things were coming and creeping at us, but COVID-19 just really pushed us to the digital front and make us really embrace it very fully. And that's something that has been an impetus. And so we really need to ride that wave. And digital is increasingly becoming a horizontal, not just vertical. Every business is a digital business, and you're really seeing that happening. So there's so much growth, there's so much opportunities, and it's becoming like a common skill that we all need to make sure that the people around us have, especially women. So I think that's one big area that we definitely can look into, working together, collaborating. And I would really echo the call of all these wonderful ladies here to just encourage people to just be curious and find out more and take that first step. There is a Malay saying, "Tak kenal maka tak cinta." You don't know, then you can't love. So it's about learning and inching ourselves closer, because it's inevitable. It's going to come to us. And so we should embrace and learn about it. And I encourage us to actually look at opportunities where we can take that first step to learn more, and also to facilitate that journey for those who are venturing into this space, and creating that ecosystem where we are supporting and facilitating growth and encouraging leadership within the sector. So I think those are specific things that we could definitely look at moving forward from today.
Thank you very much, Palsec. All of you are amazing women, and I know that although we have no questions, it's not because people are not involved. They are totally engaged, because I could even feel the vibes even without seeing the audience. I think we cannot go on and be a smart nation if we do not attempt to make it safe, secure, and sustainable for women, for youths, and for every citizen. I do want to say a big thank you to all of you, because amongst my 3 C's, one of my biggest C is collaboration. And I'm seeing it pervasively across all your conversations. Building culture takes time. A lot of it is built on trust. And I think tonight you have shown us that you know how to do this right. You've built trust within your own community. And so on that note, a big thank you on behalf of Singapore, on behalf of my team at CSA. They've become like my team. Big thank you to Shini and Rosabel. I know a lot of other people are working behind the scene to make us all look so good. And I know you all look very good this evening. Thank you very much. And I'm going to hand the mic over to Juliana.
A very big thank you to our moderator and speakers for that insightful panel discussion. Next up, we have our YouthX Fireside Chats. This year, we are excited to have youth who have a strong passion for the cybersecurity sector to moderate our Fireside Chats. And for this very first one, featuring cyber experts, our moderator will be Mr. Ben Chua, President and Chief Executive Officer of Cyber Youth Singapore, a youth-led community group that aims to bring youth with a passion for cybersecurity together. So please do join me in welcoming our moderator, Mr. Ben Chua, President and Chief Executive Officer of Cyber Youth Singapore. We have our speakers as well, Ms. Inga Bryan, Managing Director of the NCC Group, Continental Europe Operations and Fox IT, as well as Ms. Alina Tan, Associate Principal, Enterprise Security Architect at Dyson. So handing it over to you, Mr. Chua.
Thank you, Juliana. A very good day to everyone tuning into this session today from all across the world. I'm Ben from Cyber Youth Singapore, a local youth charity focused on bringing our youth together to advance the digital world. I'm 21 this year, and I'm delighted and humbled to be invited to moderate this fireside chat. Hi, can you guys hear me now? That's great. So sorry about the technical disruption. I'm not sure where I dropped off, but I think to save time, let me just go straight to the questions. For context to our audience, we have two very inspiring speakers here with us today. We have Inga and we have Elena. Right, both are very inspiring women, and they'll be sharing with us today more about their cybersecurity career journey over the past 2 decades. Right. So without further ado, let me direct the first question to Elena. Elena, you and I have known each other for about under 2 years now, and I've personally witnessed your drive and dedication to do what you do every day. Right. So please share with us what interests you the most about cybersecurity and what makes you, open your eyes every morning to go to work.
Thanks, Ben. Okay, so so for me, everything in cybersecurity is actually interesting to me. So from the technical hands-on to policies, and most importantly, the people, process, and technology. So for me in this field, it's always about constant learning. And despite being in cybersecurity for a number of years, I've always learned something new. So every day is ever changing and never mundane to me. So after spending some years in cybersecurity, I'm actually particularly interested in operational technology security, OT security, and automotive security. So partly due to my interest in car racing and also understanding of how control systems work. I also like the offensive security aspect of cybersecurity by discovering and exploiting vulnerabilities within systems, which entails to making the application more secure. So if you were to ask me what really makes me think and go to work every day, it's about all of these things that drives me further. Yeah.
Well,
Thank you.
thanks for sharing. I think, Elena, I've personally, seen you stayed up late at night, past 11 p.m., almost 12, trying to fix your automotive security test bed to test your, experiment new technologies and new ways to compromise systems, and actually that keeps our vehicles on our roads safe every day. So I really applaud you, and I think I'll move to the kind of pivot the question to Inga now, because Inga has a slightly different portfolio from Elena. Inga, you spent over the past 2 decades over both the public and the private sector, right? You were in the National Police. You were really from Deloitte, the Big Four. Maybe share with us a bit more. What interests you most about cybersecurity?
Well, thanks for the question. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So I built my career in security, not cybersecurity, but security. And actually, when I started my career, the internet wasn't there yet. So but what I found that I worked in the intelligence service of the Netherlands for 14 years, and in the early years of my career, I moved onto the internet and started using technology, and technology became a bigger part of my security work every year. It just got bigger and bigger. Data analysis, interception, lawful interception, obviously, but also penetrating networks, gaining an information position nationally and internationally. Also doing very specific investigations towards people. And then from there, I moved on to the criminal investigation side, to the police. And it got bigger and bigger. And I remember the first ransomware case was in 2013. We all feel now ransomware is part of our lives, but it's only since 2013 that we had our first case. I don't know if you remember CoinVault, Carbonac, really big cases. And actually, Carbonac wasn't really ransomware, but it's so I was at the top of this criminal investigation service when I saw the rise of cybercrime firsthand. I led these investigations myself, and I saw that on the government side, the focus is traditionally on the physical side of the world, and I had gotten acquainted with our sort of digital underlayment of our entire society, and I ended up leaving the public sector because I felt that instead of combating insecurity and crime, we need to build security. So 5 years ago, I left and I went to Deloitte, and actually this year I went to NCC Group, 1st of January. And what we do is build security. And what I love about it is, well, I deeply love security. Every day that I can work on securing the world makes me a happy woman. And yes, I'm a control freak, and yes, I love anything digital. I love my computer, I guess that's part of me. And it's different every single day. Like Alina says, it's with the people. It's offensive, it's defensive, and what I truly love about where I am now is that I find people from all sectors thinkable. There are, not only computer scientists, forensic scientists, there are psychologists, business experts, people who really understand how a business works. Because if you know how that works, you know how crime affects it. So we need everybody. And everybody has a role to play. That's what I really love about it. I can go on for hours, but I won't. I know you have more questions.
Thanks so much for your sharing, Inga. I think I'm seeing a very common theme here from both speakers. I think it is about the refreshing nature and the new nature that security and cybersecurity brings every day to you, that makes you so interested in from meeting new people to learning new things. That's really I feel correct me if I'm wrong, but the anchoring factor here that makes both of you feel so interested and intrigued by this particular field. And that's the same for me. I started my own journey back when I was 15 years old. So that really keeps me anchored and going, because in tech, in cybersecurity, nothing is ever old. So there is no youth or old in tech. Everybody is on the same page because every day you're learning something new, and that's the beauty of it. Yeah. So thank you so much for sharing this, Elena and Inga. I'll actually move on to the next question now. Okay. So currently in this current age, in this digital climate, the media and in film has kind of distorted the whole perception of cybersecurity, of hacking. When I talk to youths today, when the younger ones ask about them, they're 13 or 14 years old, they ask, what should I do as a career? And they say, oh, cybersecurity, or that's all just hacking. You sit in a dark room, wear a hoodie, and you type some things on the computer, and then that's how it's portrayed right now in the media and press, right? So actually, what do you guys think most people would find surprising about the cybersecurity field? And I actually could direct this question to Inga first. Yeah, Inga, what do you think most people would find most surprising about the cybersecurity field?
I think the biggest surprise to most people will be that it is teamwork. Because whenever you see a movie, it always looks like there's one person who does everything. And it's not true. There's a high division of labor. And there are so many segments that when you're securing a company, there's somebody who does the assessment, who gives the organization advice. And Alina already mentioned, it's about processes, people, and technology. And it's a multifaceted work. If you do an investigation or if you're remediating, anything you do, it's always teamwork. It's not down to one individual who then is the hero of the day. We're all the heroes of the day. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Inga. I think that's a real quality that actually surprised me, because I didn't really think about that from that angle. But teamwork actually is a very soft skill that proliferates, the entire field that we are in. Many oftentimes, as you right to point out in the movies, it's always depicted as one sole lone hacker. But in actual fact, actually there's a whole team behind it. And that's the exact experience I faced when I entered, tertiary education. And I realized there's so much more teamwork and responsibility to work with other people involved. And I think that's a soft skill that our youth today don't really appreciate, the empathy and the responsibility that goes together when working with other people. I think that's something that we really do have to pay more attention to. And really thank you, Inga, for pointing that out. Elena, what do you think? What do you think most people will be most surprised about cybersecurity?
Yeah, I think like you mentioned, right? I actually, before I entered the cybersecurity industry, I actually had the impression that cybersecurity was just attack and defense, like hacking and defending, like the show Mr. Robot. So I think it creates a lot of perception is just hacking and defending or whatnot. But after entering the industry, I realized that cybersecurity is such a big field and actually spans across many different domains, such as your threat intelligence, your architecture, digital forensics, GRC. And many of these domains actually requires different skill sets, just not limited to just programming itself. And what Inga mentioned is very important, teamwork that we always often overlook. Yeah, so I think teamwork makes the dream work, right? As they say, yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, I think then again we have the theme right here, where Elena very rightly pointed out that there's so much fields in cybersecurity and in tech in general. There can't be one sole expert that covers everything. One person looks at policy, one person looks at blue teaming. The audit side of it, as Inga rightly pointed out, is multifaceted. So we can't have one person that dominates the entire conversation, dominates the entire topic of conversation for cybersecurity. There are many domain expertise involved, and I think, really very honestly, coming from a youth organization dealing with our young everyday in Singapore, I think that's really a factor that we are lacking in terms of working together, cross collaboration. Everybody is more competitive in that sense and nature. They are more afraid to share what they have learned with each other. So really hope our audience are listening and can absorb this advice and from our two speakers. I'll move on to the next question because we're a little bit short of time. What do you think are the key skills or traits, that a cybersecurity expert should have? This is coming from a point of view that our youth today are not really sure, what skills they should possess before entering this field. I'll give you guys one example. I myself came from a background of no technology, so I had almost no interaction with a digital device before entering my polytechnic course focused on cybersecurity. So that first few months was extremely scary for me. It was full of apprehension because I did not know what to expect. And I know Inga came from a background, where you actually saw or oversee the digital age, being introduced to the world. So maybe I think Inga, would you like to write on that and kind of share with us, what are some key skills, that makes you kind of relevant and permanent in this sector all the way through? Inga, over to you. Yeah. You're muted, Inga.
Okay. Yeah. So what works best, I think, in the teamwork and the multidisciplinary work that cybersecurity is, if you're still in the phase, what should I study and what should be the expertise that I want to learn, I think it's best to keep in mind to have a so-called T profile. You know a lot about everything, that you know something about everything and a lot about one thing. And you can be an expert, or you can have, for example, specific knowledge on security engineering, but also know something of implementing processes and also know something about, I don't know, monkeys in South Africa, the best taste of sushi, having all these different, it's having a wide view on the world and knowing something about everything and just be really good at one thing. But I think the main thing is to be interested in everything. It's just in everything, because the reality is when you step into the environment of a company that's been attacked, then every detail counts. Every detail counts. And you really want to look at things, how do people work here? Which are the processes that really matter? What do we have to defend now? What do we have to build up later? So all these details matter. So an eye for detail also helps. Of course, a propensity towards cooperation, being interested in the world around you and the people around you, and making use of each other's expertise. That's it.
Thank you so much, Inga. I think it's interesting to note that, Inga, you didn't describe any core and technical skill actually. You actually described soft skills that are, that actually are relevant and key to a cybersecurity expert. You didn't describe, a proficiency in Linux. You didn't describe, proficiency in Microsoft or certain hacking tools or Metasploit for that matter. You specifically spoke about, soft skills, and that actually, I agree, makes us relevant. How about Alina? What do you think?
So I totally agree with what Ingo mentioned. So having a curious mindset and the constant thirst for knowledge is really very important. Especially, you need to have like perseverance and tenacity, and also not giving up when you go into like a different environment. So because sometimes it will be very challenging if there are things that you do not know, and sometimes you might be too shy to speak up. Yeah. So having that kind of mindset of not giving up is actually very important. And also one more thing is I would like to touch on soft skills, like being able to actually write a technical report, and also doing proper presentation skills, like presenting the findings of vulnerabilities and translating these technical terms into layman terms to the upper management or the business management is actually very important. Yeah. So I think sometimes people might be too focused on the technical portions and they forget how to actually translate these terms and how do you put risk into quantity and money and value? How do you make the company save money and all? Yeah.
Well, I think, both of you describe really intangible soft skills, that cannot be learned in a school. It can only be experienced. It can only be really tangibly experienced when someone actually, works in a company, goes through the whole process of receiving this knowledge. So that's really interesting because, in Singapore, it's a very, as much as we hate to admit it, it's a very paper-based and qualification-based environment. Everybody is hunting for the next next qualification to bring them to the next level, right? Core hard technical skills. And many often, as Elena mentioned, they neglect presentation, they neglect how to actually express and present themselves. They can code such a huge block of code, right? Solving the world's, it can even solve world hunger, but they don't know how to explain it. They don't know how to, apply it in the actual situation. It defeats all purposes, right? So thank you so much for sharing. Yes, Inga, you wanted to say something.
Can I just add one little thing? I just realized something that is across all disciplines. What stands out in cybersecurity is we're problem solvers. So that is an asset, regardless of what your background is. Problem solvers really are do very well in cybersecurity. So actually, I was at a meeting a few days ago, and the room was full of scientists, and there I saw the difference. They can wrap their heads around a problem forever, but they don't fix it, and we fix it. That's the problem. That's the difference.
Amazing quote, Inga. I think that really wraps up the whole description of this career perfectly in one sentence. Right. Thank you so much. Okay, panelists, we actually have questions coming in now from our live audience. I think it's time we actually move on to. We are right on time, right on schedule for the live Q&A segment. So audience, please do keep your questions coming. I've started to see about 1 or 2 here. So I think I'll just pose this first question up for both Inga and Elena. This is a little bit controversial in our Singaporean youth circle, where everybody is hunting for the next certification. I've done OSCP. I'll go on next. Right. So what the question is, what do you think is more important in cybersecurity roles? Experience or certifications? So I think Inga, would you like to do this, or Elena, would you like to start first? Since this is from a Singaporean context, I think Elena, would you like to go first?
Okay, sure. For me, okay, so I do agree that certifications are important, but at the same time, being in the industry for a couple of years, I really feel that experience is the one that stands out even more, because most of the time people actually mistake chasing certification as chasing for knowledge. It's actually more important to chase to actually go for knowledge rather than certifications. Yeah, because the certificates itself may not, the knowledge in certificates may not actually teach you everything about the actual environment. Yeah. So doing like on the job training in the actual environment itself, sometimes you will actually gain more experience or more knowledge in terms of than chasing certifications. Yeah. But I would say both of them are actually equally important, but never miss out on the knowledge portion. Yeah.
Inga, how about you? What do you think about this particular?
Yes, I do agree with Alina, because it's the knowledge that counts, and certification is a result of knowledge if it's okay. And very practically, to be honest, in our business, when for example for red teaming engagements, so the attack simulations that we do in a very specific way with threat intel and offensive measures, specifically in the financial sector, people need to be certified. So yes, we hire for attitude, and then we add knowledge, and then we have people certified as much as possible, but it's not the main thing. Also because a big part of our business is incident response. Actually, we call it incident response, but it's really catastrophe response, because companies being hit by ransomware are desperate. And for us, it's an incident. For them, it's sometimes the end of their firm. So nobody in that situation ever asks for a certificate. But when you do a planned engagement in a highly regulated environment, then you need certificates. So for a business, it is important. Yeah. But the knowledge to me, is always the most important.
I think both panelists really raised good points. I think the knowledge derived from certificates, that's a basic first step. Many engagements, especially in the financial sector here in Singapore, you have to be certified with certain certificates in order to do certain, in order to do certain activities with the financial institution. That is inevitable, right? You have to have basic minimal knowledge standing in order to participate in those works. But I think both are right. The wisdom that comes with experience is one that is intangible and one that has to be earned. No certificate is going to teach you how it actually feels like to respond to a real life incident. No certificate is going to teach you to, handle that kind of stress. You see, that wisdom has to be experienced. And I think that wisdom is more important, or rather not really more important, but more valuable than the knowledge gained from the certs, because anybody can go for certs, but wisdom is unique to every individual. Right. So we have about 2 minutes left. I have just a few more questions. I can't cover all. I'm so sorry to all the audience. I think we are quite popular here today, but I'll just pick one more. Okay, I think I'll pick one more very, very relevant to today's climate. Okay, so we know that there's a massive lack of skill sets or experience. How would you advise a fresh grad or youth, if they are keen to move into a cybersecurity career? I think Elena, would you like to go first?
Yep, sure. So I myself also came without any cybersecurity background before I joined my first job in cybersecurity. So I think one of the things that I regretted not really doing is going for a lot of internships with companies to do cybersecurity, get cybersecurity hands-on experience and all. So I think internships and also self-studying, a lot of online platforms to actually practice all the offensive skills. I think going to look at those resources, like even videos, conferences, so like Black Hat, DevCon, or different kinds of InfoSec conferences, they have free videos after the conference is over being posted on YouTube. I think that is one of the good ways to actually gain more knowledge about cybersecurity for free. And then, that is what usually I advise my younger sister, who is also in cybersecurity as well.
Right. Thanks, Elena. I think Alicia, Elena's younger sister, have heard that multiple times. Inga, I would tweak the question a little bit here for you. I think it is tweaking this for someone who has vast experience like yourself. You have been in the security industry for over 2 decades. I think really from the perspective of a youth, why should the youth consider pursuing a career in the cybersecurity field?
Well, I'll tell you why. Because if you go to work knowing that you will be helping someone, a company, or a part of a company, your colleagues, you always know that you drive to work, or you're on a train to work in the morning, and when you go home that day, we will have made the world a better place. And that is the best feeling to have. So that is, I think, the best reason. And also, we're still a fairly young sector, so you learn like nowhere else. And so you grow as a person. And don't forget, the cybersecurity business is not just a business, we're also a community. And also, because I totally agree with Alina's advice, go and do internships, go to events, become part of the community, because it is a community, it's a family. And that's, I know from people that maybe change jobs, but they don't leave the community. So welcome aboard. Step in.
Thank you so much, Inga. Thank you so much, Elena. I think, Inga, you really rounded off very, very well. We are more than just a career. We are more than just an industry. We are, as Inga very rightly put it, we are a family. We are a community. It's a community that brings you new, refreshing perspectives every day you step into the job. It's a very noble job. You go into it every day protecting someone. You get to work with other people. Teamwork forms the very core foundation of this career, right? And most importantly, this career is not about the technical skills that surrounds it. It's not like medicine, not about law. It's about being able to communicate. It's about the soft skills that come together with it. So thank you so much, panelists here today. I think we have really, really a very, very good time speaking here today. I hope our audience have enjoyed this. I think we have really run out of time. We have exceeded it by a little bit. I'm so sorry to CSA. But thank you so much on behalf of Singapore and of CSA. Thank you everybody for tuning in. Thank you.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
A big thank you to our moderator and speakers for the insights into technical cybersecurity roles. Next up, we have our Youth X Cyber Policy Makers Fireside Chat. And our youth moderator will be Ms. Pan Shu Fen, who is currently a systems engineer at the National Cyber Threat Monitoring Center at the Cybersecurity Agency of Singapore. And joining her are our speakers, Ms. Gwenda Fong, Assistant Chief Executive at the Cybersecurity Agency of Singapore, as well as Ms. Mihoko Matsubara, Chief Cybersecurity Strategist at NTT Corporation. So over to you, Ms. Pan.
So thanks, Juliana, for the introduction, and a very well welcome to everyone who has tuned in to our Fireside Chat. And I'm Shufen, and I'm delighted to be the moderator of this Fireside Chat. And this evening, we had a panel discussion with prominent leaders on the development of the next generation of cybersecurity leadership, followed by a Fireside Chat featuring cybersecurity experts. And for our last Fireside Chat of this evening, we have with us two prominent cybersecurity experts, Assistant Chief Executive of Cybersecurity Agency of Singapore, Ms. Gwenda Fong, and Chief Cybersecurity Strategist of NTT Corporation, Ms. Mihoko Matsubara, to share more about their career journey. But before I begin, I would like to remind our audience that all of you can submit your questions for Gwenda and Miho through Slido with the hashtag WMICBR. And to start off the discussion tonight, we shall invite our panelists to give a short introduction of themselves. So may I invite Gwenda to start off first?
Hi, Shufen. Thank you very much. Hi, everyone. My name is Gwenda Fong. I'm the Assistant Chief Executive at the Cybersecurity Agency of Singapore, where I oversee policy and corporate development. In my role, I oversee quite a range of functions, from strategy and policy to international cyber diplomacy to the regulation of our critical information infrastructure, public communications, and lastly, HR. So that's quite a wide range of issues. And just to give you a specific example of a policy issue that's kept me busy over the last few months, my team and I, we conceptualized and developed the new Singapore Cybersecurity Strategy 2021 that was just launched by our senior minister earlier this week. It articulates Singapore's national strategy on how we intend to approach the issue of cybersecurity. So that's an example of a policy issue that we work on. Thank you.
Thanks, Gwenda. I see that you have a really diverse experience, and this is something that I would love to delve deeper in a little while. But now I would like to turn over to Miho for her to share with the audience a little more about her background.
Sure. So thank you so much for having me today. So my name is Mihoko Matsubara. I'm from Japan, and I'm a Chief Cybersecurity Strategist at NTT Corporation, which is a Japan-based ICT service provider. So my role is to do cybersecurity thought leadership. So what it means. So I share the trend of cyber threats and also the cybersecurity best practices with cybersecurity leaders in the government, academia, and industry, but also with business leaders and the general public to better understand what's going on in the cyber domain. Because sometimes people are scared that cybersecurity sounds so technical, but yet they are so interested in what's happening in cybersecurity. So that's my role to break down the concept of cybersecurity.
So I do know that both our panelists have had a wealth of experience in policy work across the various sectors. For Gwenda, you have experience across the various fields in the public sector, from defense to health before your current role. And for Miho, I also know that you have experience in the public sector before moving into the private sector. And I'm really interested to know how your diverse experiences have helped in your role as a cyber policy maker. And perhaps we could have Gwenda to start off by sharing first, followed by Miho.
Sure, Shufen. That's actually a really good question. First, let me start by saying that cyber policy is really different from other areas of policy in that it's extremely multidisciplinary. So in my view, cyber policy sits at the confluence of technical developments, security policy, and geopolitical considerations. So it's important to understand the interplay of these three different issues to be able to be effective in formulating cyber policies. Before joining CSA, I didn't fully appreciate the multidisciplinary nature of cybersecurity policy. But now that I've been on the job for more than 4 years, I truly appreciate that. And I do think that my past experiences have prepared me for this role. I thought to share a little bit about my past experience. I am an electrical engineer by training. And prior to joining CSA, as Shufen mentioned, I do have experience doing policy in other domains, namely in the defense sector, as well as health and aging. My background as an electrical engineer allows me to understand the technical issues that are being discussed in cybersecurity. I don't do deep tech now, but at least I have sufficient background to understand the tech issues that are at the core of cybersecurity policy making. I also spent about 10 years in the defense ecosystem, where I honed my instincts in security policy and geopolitical considerations. And I think that's why I have the ability to appreciate the interplay of these different issues in cybersecurity policy making. Over to you, Miho.
Thank you, Gwenda, for sharing your powerful story as a cybersecurity expert journey. So I started my career in the Japanese Ministry of Defense after my undergraduate degree. And there I happened to be involved in cybersecurity from a defense perspective. And after 9 years, I left the government to pursue my master's degree to do more on international security research in Washington, D.C. And during my 2 years period in Washington, D.C., a classmate of mine happened to invite me to write an article on Asian cybersecurity. And I had never imagined that my government experience would help me to do analysis of the policy on cybersecurity. And that publication led to a fellowship position in a think tank in Honolulu, Pacific Forum, CSIS, to continue my cybersecurity policy research for another year. So as Gwen emphasized beautifully, cybersecurity is so diversified on geopolitical analysis, policy analysis, and technical background. So, the beauty of cybersecurity career path is this flexibility and diversity, and every single aspect of your career and the academic background would help you to make the difference, and also that makes the world more secure and safe, because you have a different skill sets and insights to find out the whole in cybersecurity.
So thank you to both Gwenda and Miho. These are really interesting perspectives, and I'm already mentally noting down some tips from experiences. So when I'm listening to experiences and how they shape you into the way you are today, I think I can't help but to think about what kind of challenges you have faced throughout your career. I think for many youth like me who are new into the workforce or just stepping into the workforce, we can't help but to worry about the challenges and setbacks that we may have faced, and be it in the assigned tasks or managing our relationships with our bosses or colleagues. And it would be really great to hear from experienced professionals within the field on the challenges they have faced, and more importantly, how they overcome these challenges. So shall we start with Miho this time around?
Sure, thank you. So after I did less than 1 year cybersecurity policy research and a wonderful time in Honolulu at Pacific Forum CSIS, and I really developed my passions towards cybersecurity policy. So I was keen to continue to do that for my career back in Japan, because my visa required me to return to Japan to spend at least 2 years there if I want to go back to the United States for work. But at that time, back in 2012 to 2013, Japan really didn't have many cybersecurity policy positions outside the government. So toward the end of my time in Hawaii, I was frightened because the outlook of my career in Japan was not so promising. That's what I thought at that time. And so after my research time in Hawaii, I went back to Washington, D.C., where I did my master's degree. And I reconnected with my cybersecurity contacts, because during my time at the think tank, I did summarizations of Japanese articles on cybersecurity and shared that summary with cybersecurity community in Washington, D.C. for 1 year. So they actually helped me to get me connected with their Japanese counterpart. And they created a position for me to do research on cybersecurity policy, but also geopolitical research. So it was a really perfect position for me, and I was really grateful that I was able to take advantage of my diversified background from the government and also academia to go to industry in Japan.
Thanks, Miho. I think it's really not easy. And I think if anyone is in your position, it's really so apprehensive because of all the uncertainties involved in the situation. So now we move on to Gwenda. So what is the greatest challenge of your career thus far in the public sector?
Okay, I've been in the public sector for a very long time. So maybe instead of thinking back, across my entire career in the public sector, I'll focus a little bit more on cybersecurity, what the challenges are. I think the main challenge of working in the cybersecurity field is the very fast evolving nature of technology. And it's challenging because cybersecurity is primarily about securing technologies. Yet technologies change so quickly. You have new developments, new innovations, and as new technologies emerge, we need to keep pace with the technologies, understand how they give rise to new attack vectors and how the new tech needs to be secured. So that is, I think, one of the main challenges for someone in the field of cybersecurity. The other area of challenge that I would say as a cybersecurity policymaker is the need to be trilingual, right? What I mean is you need to be sufficiently, you need to understand the tech and the cybersecurity kind of operations enough to know what our technical operations colleagues are talking about or what they require and what their needs are. We need to understand the policy kind of considerations, to be able to explain a deep technical issue to the policy decision makers. How do we frame the issue? How do we explain what the trade-offs are? And thirdly, in my role, I also do need to interface with lawyers, right? People who are drafting legislation. So that's what I mean by the need to be trilingual. And it's actually quite difficult to find people who are comfortable talking with the tech people, the policy people, and also the lawyers. And that I think is a challenge in my particular role.
So thank you both for sharing your personal experiences and how you overcome all these challenges. And I really hope that this inspires anyone out there who might be facing obstacles in their educational or career journey to press on. And I noticed that some of you have some questions for Miho and Gwenda that have been put in the chat box. So we'll be quickly answering some of this question now. So the first question, I think it ties in very nicely with our previous questions, because when we have a lot of challenges, you start thinking, what's the thing that keeps you in the cybersecurity field? So shall we start with Gwenda first?
Okay, I think to me the interesting thing is it's about protecting people from the downsides of digitalization. Very often we hear about the opportunities, the bright sides, the advantages of digitalization. But and while all that is true, we can't just go and digitalize everything without paying attention to the bad things that could happen. So what keeps me going, what motivates me is knowing that the work that we do makes an impact because we are enabling people to benefit from digitalization because we can protect the systems and teach people how to be safe. So that is what motivates me.
Thank you, Gwenda. What about Miho?
Oh, because cybersecurity is so demanding to be a trilingual or at least not bilingual, and every day is different. And because technology is changing so rapidly, and the threat landscape is changing dynamically as well. So it's really difficult to keep up with everything, technology's trend and policy and legislation and threat landscape. Yet it's so interesting so that because the job actually allows you to talk to wide variety of people from different organizations, sectors, and countries. So I really embrace the rich conversation with so many different diversified cybersecurity experts.
I think that the common point between what Gwenda and Miho has been trying to bring about is also the problem about how technology is always changing and how we have to keep pace with the evolving technology. And I think this is very closely related to one of the questions asked by the audience is what is the challenge presented by COVID-19 to the cybersecurity industry? As we all know, the cases are rising, and what kind of challenges are you facing in your daily work? Shall anyone of you want to chime in first?
Sure, I can go first. I think the main challenge with COVID is the rapid pace of digitalization. Overnight, when borders had to close, work from home arrangements were put in place, and we had to put in place social distancing. We couldn't meet friends. So everything went digital. So businesses had to digitalize really, really quickly. And very often it was a matter of business survival, right? They needed to do so to be able to keep surviving and keep business going in that very challenging situation. But the challenge is when you digitalize everything kind of overnight, you don't have enough time or bandwidth to really think about how do you do so safely. So the fact that all your employees are now working from home, with their laptops, they're logging in through their own personal home networks. You don't have as much control over the configuration of your enterprise network and such. So the so-called attack surface or the exposure is different. And if you don't put in place the proper kind of control mechanisms, it just opens up the enterprise to a lot more risk. Coupled with that, you also have cyber criminals taking advantage of, kind of opportunistic attacks, right? Because they know that everyone is really concerned about COVID or vaccines or cures, and they use these themes as phishing lures. They'll create something that sounds very sensationalist or something that sounds too good to be true and try to trick people into clicking these links. So these are the certain kind of trends that we've seen. That's why it's extremely important to do outreach to businesses, to individuals, to employees, to tell people of what the trends are in terms of cyber threats and how they shouldn't kind of fall victim to some of these malicious actors.
So I would give three challenges during this pandemic. So first one is low cybersecurity awareness. The second one is stress, and also the third one is the biggest ever cyber threat attack surface. So first, because now we are more reliant on information technologies more than ever, as Gwenda stated. Yet, not only 50% of global remote workers have received telework-focused cybersecurity training during this pandemic. So that is why people are so stressed and always looking at their screen. So the ratio to click phishing or spear phishing emails went up from 5% before the pandemic and went up over 40% after the pandemic started. So the attack surface has really expanded now because we use more crowd collaboration tools such as Zoom or WebEx. So what we really need to do is cybersecurity awareness, and also we need to bring in a diversified and next generation cybersecurity workforce. So I think that the Singapore International Cyber Week is another perfect platform to share our best practices and also to bring in the next generation cybersecurity workforce. So thank you.
Okay, thank you both for your responses, and of course our audience for their participation. We have many wonderful questions, but unfortunately we are unable to answer them all in this limited time. And just to wrap up this fireside chat, could I seek both panelists to share a piece of advice that you would give someone interested to pursue this field? And Miho, would you like to start first?
Sure. So I would say thank you so much for your interest in cybersecurity, because now, according to ISC Square, the world is lack of 3.12 million cybersecurity workforce at the moment. So that's huge. So I would take 3 actions if I can. So first one is to intern at a company during your academic years. Why? Because if you intern not in the government, but in the industry, you would understand how technology would get rolled out and how industry talks to industry. And maybe you can earn technical skill sets. And second, try to publish at least 1 or 2 cybersecurity policy blogs or articles before you get your first job. Then you can prove your writing and analytical skill sets to your potential employers. And third, maybe you said, well, it is really, really difficult to get internship, especially during this pandemic. I totally understand. But still, you can go to many webinars as much as you can during the pandemic. There are so many. So go there and make sure to ask a good question or good questions every webinar you go to, so that people would remember you by your great questions, and people will reach out to you, and maybe they will offer you a new position just for you. Thank you.
That's a really good advice, Miho, and I wish that someone had given me that advice when I was much younger. So I would maybe leave our audience with two other pieces of advice. First is just to make the point that the field of cybersecurity does not only comprise highly technical jobs, and it doesn't always have a high barrier of entry. There are, of course, certain jobs that require very deep technical skills like penetration testing or malware analysis, but there are also many others in the field of cybersecurity that are multidisciplinary and less technical in nature, such as in the areas of strategy, policy, and Miho and myself have talked about some of this. So I really encourage you, if you're interested in cybersecurity, to explore the range of jobs that are available in this domain and to find something that might suit your interest. The second point that I would like to make is tied to a point I made earlier about the challenge of the fast evolving nature of cybersecurity. Hence, if you want a career in cybersecurity, you have to be prepared to constantly learn, unlearn, and relearn, right? Don't think that as you graduate, you have made it for life and you can just not have to learn anything new for the rest of your career. If you want a career in tech, that's really not going to be true. You do need critical thinking. You do need a certain element of a pioneering spirit, because if you're at a leading edge of technology or cybersecurity, it means that there are no best practices to follow, right? There's no one to copy from. You have to figure out what makes sense to do, and hopefully over time, what we come up with then becomes the best practice for future generations to follow. So that will be my kind of parting advice to all of us. Back to you, Shufan.
So thank you both, Miho and Gwenda, for your advice. And with this, we have come to the end of our fireside chat. It has been an amazing evening. A big thank you to Gwenda and Miho for taking your time out to share your experience with all of us. And thank you to everyone who has been listening to our session as well. And I wish all of you a great weekend ahead. Over to you, Juliana.
A very big thank you to our moderator and speakers for that thought-provoking discussion. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of the 3rd edition of Women in Cyber. Do scan the QR code on the screen to access further resources on the topics. I certainly hope you have had an interesting time with us in this session. We thank you and see you next year.